2nd, 2019. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Health. I'm sorry, I unplugged you here. Applications. I'm sorry, not applications. Citizens' time. Is anyone here who is not on the agenda who has any issues or concerns to bring forward to the board? Applications. Application for site plan approval, 61 Center Street, Town of Burlington.
Good evening.
Good evening. If you can sign in and give us your names, please.
I'm Tom Hayes, I'm town engineer.
Tim Mazzoni, Senior Engineer, Town of Burlington.
Town of Burlington, that's a nice place. Environmental engineer.
Yep. The town is proposing to add a parking lot in front of 61 Center Street, our current office building. And they'll be upgrading stormwater system to include new catch basins, water quality units, and underground infiltrators. I did the test, observed the test pits this summer, and the soils look good. So I'll let Tom and Tim give you the details.
You stole most of my thunder, but we're here to present the project. Tim is the project manager, he's also design engineer. Steve Hildreth is soils evaluator, he's also a senior engineer, and he is the designer of the drainage system. So what we're doing is we're expanding the parking lot in front of the Human Services Building, provide about 53
53 spaces.
additional spaces. The drainage system is fully compliant. We are going with two deep sump catch basins with hoods, infiltrator system, and we're pre-treating it with a storm scepter system, excuse me. Tripping on my words. As Christine said, in September, they went out, they did test pits. It was a Class A soil. Steve did, we ran HydroCAD through, I think, 5 different storm events. We have both reductions through peak rate of runoff as well as the volume from the site through all the storm events. If you have any questions or want a little more detail on the parking lot, we're here to answer any questions you have.
Are you changing the flow too? The flow of the one-way and all that?
Yes, it's right now, you guys are all familiar with the parking lot. There's one in, one out.
Intimately.
A lot of complaints, especially if you're going over to the Grandview Farm or to 61, because how do I get there? It's over there, but I have to enter over here. So to consolidate the entrances, we're going with one entrance, and then what has 2 lanes for out. So if we have a baseball, I've been there on a Saturday, a baseball game with the kids. A lot of people leave. That way they can pick which way they're going, move the traffic out there a little quicker. We also feel we have a better flow of traffic. So you come into the site, you have the option of going into the big parking lot in front, otherwise you can go out back, and then you can swing through, and then out on the north side of the site.
Do you actually have to go through the parking lot to get out?
Nope, you can,
Under that Plan B? If you swing around,
if you go all the way, well, you can,
I can point to it.
yeah, I'll let Tim
Yeah,
explain.
great.
Yeah,
You can come in this way, go up through here, and then come back out this way.
right, I
Or you
understand
can go
that.
around the building, and back out this way, which is a one-way coming up this way.
Okay,
If you want to come to parking, you come in this way and just take a right and come around and park in any of these spots.
okay, so there is a right of way through there.
Yes, there is, yeah. You enter here.
Yeah.
And you come up this way here and come in. These are all angled parking here. We have some parallel parking.
Are you making any alterations to the existing parking lot at all? Are you keeping that all the same, other than the,
Out back.
yeah, and on the side, I guess, right? So there's that parking area on the side, right?
Next to the Murray,
Senior
next
center.
to the Murray Kelly wing.
Right,
Yeah, I don't believe we're doing
anything there. And I'm happy to see you leaving some grass, some green space, which is great.
There are 12 conditions. Have you seen them? And you have any problem with them?
Absolutely.
All of the drainage structures are underground, correct?
Yep.
Which is what
How
we
we like it.
wanted. Appreciate it. And
You see any concerns with it?
I have none.
Christine, you're good?
All good?
Chair will entertain a motion. There's no further discussion. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the application for a site plan approval, 61 Center Street, Town of Burlington.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
Very much.
Thanks, folks.
Discussion, proposed life science amendment to zoning bylaw
They come.
with a link to the Life Science Forum, in which we'll see the illustrious Dr. Edward Weiner. Or not.
Introduce.
Christine? Hi, folks. Welcome. Sign in. We know who you are, but give us your names anyway. Especially that guy on the left.
Kristen Kasner, Planning. Kristen Kasner, Planning Director. I think our board could get some pointers from you guys in getting through agenda items quickly, because that was.
I'm not here. Jack Kelly, Planning Board.
So thank you.
Christine, you want to introduce
Sure.
what's going on?
The planning board is introducing a revised bylaw to highlight life sciences and biotechnology in Burlington, and it outlines when special permits are required, and a couple instances where it's allowed by right in a zoning district, but I'll let Kristen give you the details. And Ed can certainly, Dr. Weiner can weigh in, because he was on that panel.
Please.
So, thank you very much. If any of you got the chance, or if you got a chance before now in town meeting, I would recommend and hope that you could tune into our panel we had last Wednesday. Dr. Weiner was on the panel, and I think illuminated the audience with a lot of history about Burlington, as well as details about life science industry as its epicenter in Boston, and kind of how it's an important industry to embrace for us as the different companies start moving out of the suburbs. So I thank Dr. Weiner for the panel. I think you added a tremendous amount of diversity, and especially local perspective. So I thank you. It's on BCAT. You can get it on BCAT on demand. We had over 45 people in the room, and we've had almost 200 views on Facebook Live. So it's, at least I've never had so much interest in anything I've done. You know, I want to say we've done a lot, but I've never had 200 views on a panel discussion. So we're very proud of that. So anyway, the basis for the amendment is a couple different things. Number one, to know you can do life science in Burlington today. We passed an extensive biotechnology amendment. If some of you that were on the Board of Health in 2012 and were of great assistance in crafting those regulations. However, after we had adopted the biotechnology regulations, which have been great, and you guys, of course, since 1994 have had the Board of Health regulations on life science, or the rDNA in biotechnology regulations. But what we're finding is the other regulations that have to do with industry standards and dimensional criteria and parking criteria for lab-type spaces, we hadn't defined. We hadn't, one, created a definition of life science, which we do in this amendment. The parking criteria had been that of traditional office, which in a lab space, you don't have the traditional office density of people. So we wanted to make sure that we were reflecting that and not having people build more parking than necessary. In Burlington, it's a min-max for parking, so you have to build to those dimensional criteria unless the planning board gives a finding to build less. The other section is the floor area ratio. We have a 0.15 to 0.25, which is the maximum number of square footage you can build divided by the square footage of the total site. The planning board had the ability to go from the 0.15 to 0.25 if they had included some pedestrian amenities and other transportation demand management strategies. What this amendment does is allow for a greater density to a 0.5 FAR, which is actually on the low end to our neighbors, or let neighbors have either a 0.5 or no, or one, or no FAR at all. So what this amendment does is allow for those uses that are under the two new life science use categories to expand to a larger footprint on site because of the fact that what we are finding is there is either this, well, not either, but there's definitely much less demand per square foot and many less trips. So therefore, the effects on the roadways and the parking are either similar or less than what you'd see of an office building of similar size or the office building of the 0.25 floor area ratio. So, and I'm trying not to get too technical, and forgive me if I wade into that. But, so really, this is advertising life science in the amendment. If someone from Oklahoma or Germany or anywhere in the world Google's like, can I do life science in Burlington, it shows up. Giving a definition to life science, putting a use table criteria that's a little bit more specific than just the biotechnology section, and putting in dimensional criteria that better fit the building type, space, and occupancy that we're seeing in the industry. And what I do want to say is we started with a draft that wasn't too far from this. However, I will say that in meeting with the building department, and more importantly, or not more importantly, everyone's important, but the Board of Health staff to really help us bring in the language into this bylaw that allows you guys really the overlap and connection and oversight that brings this board into it. Because as we said with biotechnology, I mean, you guys are the experts, you have excellent staff, and we're the planning board and really want to make sure that you guys are jointly involved in the conversation at the highest levels in approving any life science uses that come into Burlington.
So, the definition didn't seem to change too much at all, but I am concerned, and I haven't expressed this to you or to our environmental engineer, but I am concerned about the bio-level safety 4 issue and taking that off the prohibition list.
Mr. Chairman, if you looked at the proposed, additional regulations, biosafety level 4 as defined by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention are prohibited in Burlington.
Okay, because it was, you know what, I didn't go all the way down there because it was here.
It moved from the definition to the use table because it was determined, and, aptly pointed out by the zoning bylaw review committee, that biosafety level 4 is a use. Why is it in the definition? Shouldn't it be in the
Fine.
use and the use
I
prohibition?
feel much better.
So
I feel
this was a
much, much
fit,
better.
But it's still prohibited, was prohibited in 2012, prohibited in.
Okay. Never mind.
Well, prior to this going and becoming warrant article number 2, the planning board, thank you, Mr. Kelly and Kristen for doing this, hosted a life science forum for the town, just to describe what life science is and what this town can do to bring more life science to this town. As you all know, there are quite a few, and passes are quite a few of those companies we have in town right now. We have reviewed most, if not all of them, and we have never had a problem. I was asked, and thank you very much, to be a panelist, and I became a panelist as, what I'm going to say, as quote-unquote an expert in the town of Burlington on life sciences, but not as a representative of the Board of Health. And I said that with the caveat that the Board of Health would consider a vote for support of this warrant article after we discussed it tonight, and I invited a lot of people to watch this, and I hope that they're watching it now. So at this point in time, I can again thank Christine and Susan. We went ahead, we served as also on a teleconference, as well as reviewed all of the information and prepped me for the forum. There is really, as far as the Board of Health goes, very minimal change for us. If you looked at the use table, there are a couple of changes, but they go from no to SP, SP being special permit, or from special permit to absolutely not. You'll also notice, to be very transparent, in the IH district, does allow without our approval. However, the IH only represents, as it did in the previous use table, I think it's 4 properties, 2 hotels, Oracle, and was there one other? No, 2 hotels and 1 Oracle. And even if a life science company would want to go in there, they are designated as office space, and it would require a change in use, and we still would get to take a look at it, from what I understand. So the Board of Health still has an integral part in the approval and working with Planning Board to make sure that any company who comes to this town, and right now we have quite a few, would abide by the wishes of the board, the Planning Board, and our regulations, including the RNA, the RNA regulation. So I pass this on to Susan. I think the board should seriously consider working with the Planning Board and supporting this warrant articles.
Yeah, so I'd just like to say that we did meet with Kristen previously, and I appreciate her getting us into the loop and meeting with us ahead of time and letting us know what was coming down the line. And even though there's minimal changes, we were able to go and review it ahead of time and go over it. So we appreciate that. I recommend the board move forward in supporting this because there really is, the changes, like you said, don't have minimal effect on the Board of Health and what we do. We'll still continue to do the reviews the same way we've always done them in the past.
So the motion really is just one for support.
Right.
And, well, it also allows myself and Susan to attend the town meeting in support of that and assist our colleagues on the Planning Board in presenting this and answering questions as we go forward.
Any other questions for our Planning Board colleagues?
None.
I was going to, Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Kelly?
I just want to mention that at our last Thursday meeting, the planning board voted unanimously 7-0 in favor of recommending this favorably to town meeting. And there were 2 other parties who contributed besides yourself and planning board, the zoning bylaw review committee and the land use committee, both town meeting member entities that participated in developing the final language.
Very good.
This is the way it's supposed to work, boards working together for the betterment of the town, and I thank you both.
Would you like to present a motion?
I just want to make sure that I have it correct. I move that the Board of Health formally supports the life science amendment to the zoning bylaw, which is Article 2 on the upcoming warrant of the town meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you
Thank
next
you.
Monday.
We'll be there.
Political motion in action.
Very much.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Stay warm.
Thanks, you
Not
too.
easy these days.
It's slippery out there.
Discussion. Fiscal,
Mr. Chairman, we have Olivia Virgin, our Board of Health intern, and we may be quite long with with our proposed budget, and I'd like to move that we take her out of sequence so she can come in and present and leave.
okay. No need to move. I will make a chair decision.
I made,
Microphone.
I made a spreadsheet that helps the, first responders with, when they go to a company, they know what hazardous materials are there. So it'll be pulled up.
I'm trying to find it. 1 minute, just need to bring that up.
Suddenly nauseated.
I'm trying to keep up with it.
Burlington.
Was that it? database?
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, that's right.
So do you want me to scroll through it while you explain it, or do you want to?
Yeah, you can scroll through
Okay.
it. So the first thing I did was, next to the hazards, I put all, yeah, if you scroll to the left. All the hazards I put on the top, color-coded, and if you click on them, they each have a definition that people can see.
Wow.
Yeah, and then on the left is all the companies that have hazardous materials, and the ones that aren't obvious what hazardous materials they have. I added the hazards in the location that they gave us in each of the companies. So, and I color-coded each of the hazards to what would be the most dangerous to first responders. So they're all color-coded. And then I also added on the names, I highlighted one, it's like at the bottom. It's one of the
Water treatment plants?
Yeah. And if you click on them, it sends you to a map of the company. So it's,
I'll try central maintenance.
yeah, you can do that one.
It won't be on that one.
It's not on that one.
I highlighted it. It should be down the bottom.
That one's fine.
Yeah, so there's one of the site maps that they gave us. And like for the waste treatment plants, I went there and I made sure that everything was in place. So it was, the maps were right, and as we continue like making this better, we make sure the maps are good and make sure they're correct and all the hazards are put in, so yeah, I went to this place and I made sure everything was in the right position. These were easy to.
So this is awesome.
Yeah.
So that this can go to our first, to the fire department, who are the first responders, and now they know everything.
Yep. So we took the master hazardous materials registration list, about 120 companies, and I worked with Olivia and went through and highlighted about 30 or 35. Where, there's, some of these little like gas stations, you know what's there. You've got underground storage tank and you got gas. But some of these other more high-tech places, we selected about 35 or so, and she went and copied all that information, and then she went and checked their hazardous materials against their safety data sheets to see what hazard category we were dealing with, and then she linked the maps to, we can actually pull it up on our phones. So if Susan or I get called out, or like you said, the fire department, any first responder can, if you have the Google Drive on your phone, you can just pull it up while you're at the site.
It's awesome.
That is fantastic.
That is great.
Fantastic. Wow.
And like Olivia said, last week we went to Vinebrook Water Treatment Plant and to Mill Pond Water Treatment Plant, because they're pretty big operations and they have large volumes of chemicals, and the water treatment plant staff did an excellent job at giving her a nice detailed tour of the workings of both plants. So I would like to thank them for their taking the time to walk us through it in great detail. I mean, I've been there several times, many times before, because I inspect them each year, but, she hadn't been, and they were really good about giving her a nice detailed tour about the workings of both water treatment plants.
Is it interesting? Is it what you're looking at getting experience on?
Yeah, definitely. Like seeing what they do to treat the water and where it comes from and where it goes. It's like, that's really just
That's great. Wow. Wowee. Wowee.
It's terrific. Just, I think I'd like the chairman, working with Director of Public Health, to put a letter together of achievement and to send that, and maybe we can all get in and sign it if necessary, but at least the chairman and Director of Public Health and her mentor, Christine Mathis, please sign that and send it off. This is a very important database that you've created, and I'm sure that the fire department, police department, and all of us we'll have a copy in our phones, so thank you.
Wow. Are you, so is there more to do, or have you completed this, or is it?
It's not completed. I can go back and add more companies, but for the rest of my time here, I'm gonna be like
That's awesome.
visiting these companies that
Wow, that is,
We're going to a couple of the non-town companies tomorrow and Thursday, just to give her a tour of what industry looks like. And then, I think,
great.
yeah, it came out really well.
Wow.
When do you wrap up your time with us?
What?
When do you wrap up your time with us?
Friday.
Oh, so this is your last week?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow, well, you've done something extremely purposeful for us, so thank you so very much.
Fantastic.
Very nice job.
Maybe you'll want to come back to us. That's great, thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We should get a picture.
Sure.
Let's get a picture, actually, why don't you, let's see.
With Christine and the director,
Yeah, with the board.
the whole board?
All of us?
Yep.
Want to come up front here?
Yeah, let's get a picture.
And I wore my boots.
Me too.
Well, your boots are nicer than mine.
Susan, you have to get into this.
Flyers and cords.
Okay, maybe, Manisha, can you take a photo? Yeah.
Well, thanks. Pass it to her for Squish.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice job.
I want to see that framed. On your mantle someplace.
Mike's gonna show that to
In your dorm room.
Christine, thank you for setting all this stuff up, and
It was a lot of fun.
I am so happy when things are purposeful, and there's very positive outcomes, unlike me right now. All right, fiscal 2020 Board, fiscal 2020 Board of Health proposed budget. Director.
Yeah, give that to him. I didn't touch it. It's not
She hasn't
open.
touched
It's-
it.
I haven't touched
Oh,
it.
no, I'm good,
Sure?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Tomorrow.
Let's do this.
So, I'll start with a budget overview. The Board of Selectmen voted to approve budget guideline of not more than a 3.5% increase for operating accounts. So the Board of Health proposed budget is a 0.55% increase, so less than 1%. We have a 0.41% increase
thank you,
in
Ed.
salaries, 1.26% in increase in expenses, and 1.22 in special accounts. So the increase in total salaries, the increase comes in full-time salaries of 0.71%. This is because of contractual obligations and an increase in the step for the supervising nurse. So in fiscal year 19, the supervising nurse position was budgeted at a category 10, step 2. With the resignation of the former nurse and the hiring of the current nurse, the position was offered at category 10, step 7. So that's the reason for the increase there. Also, was a reduction in overtime of 8.53%. The Paul Sagarino, the town administrator, requested that when doing our budgets for overtime, that it's based on current needs and expectations. So in our previous budget, we had a line item for $1,000 for emergency preparedness. This was removed because that's not based on current needs or expectations, and is funding for an emergency such as an outbreak. So we took that out because of that. The increase in expenses, we had an increase of 3.17% in contracted services. It's due because of the cost of DHD, or the Digital Health Department. That went up slightly. Within the contracted services expenses, $1,000 was shifted from part-time health inspectors to miscellaneous expenses. So there wasn't an increase or decrease in those line items, there was just a shift of $1,000. That's because it's expected that there'd be more of a need for expenses related to other contracted services, such as Title V or tobacco compliance, rather than the part-time health inspectors. We had an increase in special accounts. This was due to a 1.22% in mosquito control, and this is needed to keep the same level of services as fiscal year 19. So these services include the adult mosquito surveillance, the larval mosquito survey and control, and adult mosquito control. And without this increase, Burlington would receive 6.75 hours less of the ground applications at wetlands and residential inspections. So another thing that was discussed at the subcommittee meeting was a warrant article. And we discussed various options for the purchase of a vehicle for the Board of Health. And we came to the decision of a 2019 all-wheel drive, that says four-wheel drive, but it's all-wheel drive Ford Escape. We talked about other types of vehicles, but it was decided that this would meet our needs and be the best type of vehicle for all the multiple uses that we'd like to use it for.
Which is an SUV.
Yep.
So the idea is, it's not a huge SUV, but the idea was the multiple use, as opposed to getting a big giant cargo van that we wouldn't drive that much. This car can be used by our inspectors, can be seen within the town easily, and we could use it to transport material that needs to get from point A to point B quickly. Maybe not all of our material, but the necessary material can get to where it needs to go.
Mr. Sagarino was the individual who thought that a Ford Escape would fit the Board of Health. We were going to look at something else, but he felt pretty strongly that that's what we needed. The Board of Health, for people who are watching, are very, very involved in emergency planning and emergency execution in this town. We have almost 200 Medical Reserve Corps members. We drill all the time. You've all come to a drill, Household Hazardous Waste Day, our flu clinic. We could go on on the types of things that we do here. And in an emergency, being the only department that does not have some type of an emergency vehicle, we can't get there. We can't move supplies, and this will allow us to move supplies. And lastly, members of this board, and specifically our agents, have gone to emergency places that they had to be at, and they could not get through police lines easily because we don't have an appropriately marked vehicle. And this vehicle needs to have a Burlington seal, marked as the Board of Health, possibly a red light, and whatever we need to get to emergencies, which includes spills, which includes fires, and many of us on the board and the staff routinely do go to fires in those types of situations. So we need a vehicle.
So just to reiterate, at the subcommittee, we said it should be with the town of Burlington seal, marked with Board of Health, for visibility reasons too, so that people
Absolutely.
can see the Board of Health around town and the work that we do. And it's, like we already said, it's gonna have multiple uses for meetings, trainings, conferences, to conduct regular and complaint inspections, to go to difficult-to-reach sites like soil evaluations. It'll be easy identifiable to respond to police and fire requests. It can be used to transport supplies to the Board of Health and town events like the health fair, the household hazardous waste, Celebrate Burlington, to transport supplies like vaccines in an emergency. It will reduce but not eliminate the need for the staff to use their personal vehicles. So it will likely eliminate most of the personal vehicle use of myself, the environmental engineer, and the supervisory nurse, and some of the personal vehicle use for the associate health inspector and the health agent. The cost estimate I got today, it's $24,245 for an all-wheel drive Ford Escape. That does not include the lights, so I didn't have them put into the estimate lights. I don't know if lights are really needed, because when we do respond to an emergency, there's already police and fire on scene, so their lights are going. So it didn't include any emergency lighting on top of that. I'm told can be quite expensive, so. We will need to pay for our gasoline usage out of our Board of Health account. So you fill it up at the pump, so much per gallon, and it comes out of our account. But regular maintenance will be covered by the town central maintenance. Okay. And then, well, one other thing is the town administrator asked us to look at the request of town meeting, to look at other funding sources outside of our general operating budget. So this would include grants and revolving funds. So this is the listing that I prepared. I prepared this based on fiscal year 19, so this is the grants that we used here. So we got from the FEP grant, the CDC grant, $34,000 for the Emergency Preparedness Administrator, $1,200 for 2 cell phones, $1,000 for emergency dispensing site supplies, and then from the MRC, for the MRC, $5,000 support, and $2,000 from Leahy Health for the annual health fair. And then we have our revolving account. So currently, our revolving account is created through, or was created through a bylaw approved by town meeting. It can be used for expenses related to medical equipment and supplies, immunizations, health fairs, educational materials, emergency preparedness drills, and any other expenses related to the administration of public health and nursing programs. The expenditure limit is voted by town meeting on an annual basis. So the current expenditure limit for fiscal year 19 is $20,000. At the end of the fiscal year, any funds over the amount of $45,000 is returned to the general fund. So right now, the current balance in this account is $34,000. To date, in fiscal year 19, $7,600 was deposited to the account and $18,600 was expended. Due to the purchase of the high-dose vaccine, the Board of Health Subcommittee recommended that the board request that town meeting increase the expenditure limit to $30,000, so by an additional $10,000. So, any questions?
So once again, the director has presented to the board a very conscientious budget that is really appropriate, the subcommittee thought, in its allocations. And unless there are any questions, the chair would request a approval of this budget to present to Ways and Means.
I move we approve this budget for presentation to the Ways and Means.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
One other piece of information, the Board of Health is scheduled for the March 6th Ways and Means meeting.
She does a nice job with this.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time into a nice job.
And thank you to the subcommittee for,
And the subcommittee.
That subcommittee spent a lot of time. That was a hard-working subcommittee. I believe that was 8 o'clock in the morning, if I recall. That subcommittee, wow. Wonderful, thank you. Environmental engineer.
A couple of quick things. At last meeting, I commented about asking residents not to discharge their sump pump water into the streets and sidewalks of town, and at the chairman's request, I had our administrative assistant post something on our website, just reiterating that and, saying, so when you go to our homepage, you see the instructions on what to do and not to do with your sump pump water discharge. Second point, household hazardous waste, the spring collection is April 13th. So,
More to come.
yep.
Any issues or concerns via reporting of sump pump issues?
Right now, no.
Okay.
I'm monitoring a few, but right now,
Okay.
but
Good.
we'll see what happens later this week with
Yeah.
the melting and the raining.
Are there signs still of, that they're discharging?
No, I've been doing frequent drive-bys at the ones I'm keeping an eye on, and
That's great.
people are being compliant right now.
Now that Olivia Virgin did all your work for the past 2 weeks, is there any questions for our environmental engineer considering her report? If not, the chair will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and secondly for the discussion, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Christine. Associate Health Inspector, Ms. Hardy, you're on.
Hi. So the only thing I wanted to mention was that I met with Susan and the Emergency Management Director last week, was that last week? And after that meeting, we decided that I was going to start working on trainings for the shelter manager and also for the volunteers, just so that they have a better understanding of how the shelter works and what their responsibilities and roles will be. Very brief overview, so that hopefully people will be more comfortable with the many roles in the shelter and hopefully be more willing to take on new tasks.
Great.
So yeah, that's what I've been working on.
It's been almost a year. It's coming up, isn't it, your anniversary?
It's been over a year.
Over a year, wow.
Wow.
Really?
Time
That's
flies.
crazy.
Are you happy?
That was my next question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because that's important. Any questions for our Associate Health Inspector? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve her report.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and secondly for the discussion, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Samantha. Our nurse is not here, so
Oh, yes, she's not here tonight, so I was hoping you could continue her report to the next meeting. This was a already planned vacation week for her.
I understand. All right, so we will just, the chair will approve continuance. Okay. Director.
Yes, so, a couple of things. Tomorrow, we have a subcommittee meeting on the animal regulations. So Sam and I feel pretty good about the draft that we have now and hope to go over that with the subcommittee. We did meet with Jerry Mills, the animal control officer, and he was fine with it. He had a few questions. We had a few questions for him, and I think we worked everything out. So we'll inform the subcommittee about his comments tomorrow. And I think that's it on that. So that's where we are right now with that. Also, too, we finished the interview process for the full-time administrative assistant position. We had first interviews with 6 candidates and second interviews with 3 candidates. So out of the 3 candidates, one really came ahead, and I'm recommending that we move forward with her, and I'm requesting that the board vote on that tonight. So her name is Sarah Cordemanche. She has a bachelor's degree in Business Management Information Systems from UMass Lowell. She has experience as an office administrator, and it goes back to since 2014, so about 4 years of experience doing that. She really came out ahead on the computer tests, so we did give everyone a computer test, and hers was really well above the others. I think so, and she is very proficient in other computer applications, so Publisher is one of the things that she's proficient in. She was excited about being able to do pamphlets and posters and educational materials and things like that for the Board of Health. So I think she'll be a really good fit for us.
At the director's suggestion, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the hiring of the full-time office administrator.
So moved?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? This is not a union position. This is.
It is.
What step is she coming in as?
Step 1.
Okay, all right. And she's great with all that?
Yep.
Ready to, and how soon can she start?
She said she
approved?
could start February 7th.
Okay, and that works for you?
Yes,
And she'll be reporting to you?
yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you for your diligence on that, Director. Any other questions for our director and her report?
Because,
Please.
Susan, just what is, and maybe I just may miss this, the school wellness committee meeting, what
So
can you explain?
All schools in Massachusetts are required to have a wellness plan. So in Burlington, we have the wellness committee who works on the wellness plan, but also works on other wellness things at the schools. So they requested that myself or someone from the Board of Health take part in the wellness committee. So I've been attending their meetings on a regular basis. I think what I'm gonna do moving forward is get the nurse more involved in that. It seems like a good fit for her as well. So I'll continue to keep track of what's going on there. So what they're working on right now is updating the wellness plan for the town. So right now it's on the school's website, and you could go there and take a look at it, but it hasn't been updated in a long time. So they need to kind of update the wellness policy or
look at it.
plan.
Thank
But
you.
it's a policy, the wellness
policy,
policy, yeah, for the schools. And it takes into account things like nutrition, exercise, and it lays out the kind of like the foundation for what the schools are gonna work on, what they're gonna work towards the future, and trying to accomplish within terms of wellness, so. So there's various people from the town that are on the wellness committee. It includes, representatives from the schools, the school committee, and then also, I believe, the Youth and Family Services, the Human Resources Director. It's the health education teachers are on it, the physical education teachers, the athletic director, so.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Mr. Chairman?
Please.
In your report said something about the high school and vaping resources.
Yes, so that's one of the things that I'm trying to work with the high school on, is providing them information on vaping and the things that they can do to help with the problem, because it is a huge problem. That is one of the things that the Wellness Committee also discusses, which is the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. So last year's survey showed that, vaping is becoming more of a problem. and-
Tobacco. Yep.
Yeah. So, so every time I get resources, I forward it to everyone, the contacts on the Wellness Committee. And I just this week, I spoke to Officer Fournier, who contacted me trying to find out what the Board of Health is doing on vaping and tobacco. I informed him that we had just changed our regulations. There was discussion because the city of Somerville, I don't know if you saw that, just moved forward with the restrictions on the flavored, not only the flavored vaping products, but also menthol.
Yes.
So, and now other towns are moving forward with that. So they're the first in Massachusetts to do it. I believe it is, there's another town that's going to be moving, the Board of Health is going to be discussing doing that as well. So he wanted to find out if we were doing that. I said we had discussed it, but we didn't include that in our regulations. And, he also wanted to, I also said that I would forward him any resources that we get, because it's something that DPH is continuing to work on. And Mary Cole from the.
I was just gonna say,
met
can we
before,
have her come
I'm
back?
still in touch with her.
She was awesome.
And she sends me information all the time that I forward to them.
She's the one who came and gave us all something to smell.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah. one of the things that I mentioned to Officer Fournier was the group, it's called the84.org, where peers
Come
form a
talk,
group
right.
and try to convince other peers, because it's been proven that that's more effective when they hear it from the peers as opposed
Great.
to themselves. So I did mention that to him, and I'll keep giving them all the information that I get on that, so, and keep working on it. And I also speak, pretty regularly with the high school nurse on it, because she came to that meeting that night, Rosemary Pascal, about it as well. So,
And I can,
something we continue, and Sam is keeping up to date on vaping. She's attended a training or a conference on it not too long ago. She's gonna be going to the health fair, hopefully with Mary Cole, and providing resources to people there.
awesome. And I have a update right now from a leading pediatrician in our town, from the American Association of Pediatrics. FDA chief threatens to take e-cigarettes off the market if youth use continues to rise. Commissioner Scott Gottlieb made his most direct threat yet against e-cigarette companies last Friday, saying that they face an existential threat if they don't stop marketing to the youth.
Awesome.
So, lot of, this is a top-down kind of thing, so,
Do you have,
thank you, pediatrician
yes,
Scarfo.
is there any, maybe even anecdotal feedback on our new bylaws on change, increasing the tobacco age to 21? Has it changed at all in the high school? Have they seen any change in smoking behavior, tobacco, vaping behaviors?
So that's what the Youth Risk Behavior Survey is kind of for.
Right.
And they're gonna be administering that survey again this year. So we'll see if there's any changes last year from this year. But I think it might take a few years to kind of actually see some of those changes. I actually had this discussion with the health director in Somerville, and he was saying the same thing, because they want to see if the flavor ban is going to have any effect on that as well.
Well, we know that teen tobacco use has gone down.
Correct.
Vaping has overwhelmed adult use.
Crazy.
And that's why the Juul product was recently under great scrutiny for that, yeah.
Hasn't
So that's kind of like, we have to kind of wait for that data to come out from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey and see. It could be, but we don't know
Yeah, is
what
it
it's
shifting,
related to.
is it shifting to vaping?
Is it related to our regulations, or is it related to more things that they're doing at the school?
Right.
Or, other initiatives. So there's a lot of initiatives kind of going on.
Understood.
Yep.
I mean, one of the first steps was that this community, and hopefully all of the other community in this region, raised the tobacco use requirement to 21. And where are the kids going to buy, really, easily buy materials for vaping if it's all 21? And I think that most of our communities have raised it, haven't they?
Well, now it's going
It's a
to be
state.
raised by this, or it is
state.
already went
Yeah.
into effect from
Right.
the state.
But the
So
state has it in tiers, don't they? It's a tiered situation.
It's very
So
efficient
we're
on
not
that.
going to
So
see the results until 3 years from now.
Yeah, it goes 19, 20, 21.
So they're saying this,
Also, it's up to 19 for 1 year, 20 for the second,
To grandfather.
not to impact those kids who smoke now.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to do
Sort of
that.
wishy-washy.
Well,
Recommended that everyone.
Well, how does that work with the state
Right.
versus our?
we can be more strict. We
Right.
at
So-
least have to do what the state's
In-
doing.
In Burlington, you have to be 21.
21, yeah.
Period.
So-
End of
Period.
discussion.
Right,
Period.
but in another town that doesn't have that, you go by the state.
But once the state hits 19, any state, the least strict they can be is 19. So we are with the other towns that have done this ahead of the state curve.
Has Bill Ricker changed?
I don't know, I think Bill Ricker has, do you know, Sam?
I think
Or they haven't?
they were on my list. I think they did change, but I'm not
I
positive.
thought they did, but we're not sure.
Well, we know
And
their
I'm not
their
sure
Board of Health
actually on
Director.
Woburn either. I know when we had that discussion, Woburn was still, they were talking about it, and there was something with their regulations or their process or something. But I haven't heard that Woburn is 21 yet either, so I'm thinking that they might not be 21 yet. and they may not move forward with the process now that the state has already done it.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Any other questions for our director?
I
If
move
not,
that we approve the Director of Public Health report.
Second.
motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Old business. Old business is flu. Flu is peaking right now. It is affecting a ton of people. Please, please, please. Hand washing is crucial with either soap and water, or the alcohol or non-alcohol based products. If you are ill, please try to separate, isolate yourself from other individuals. If you sneeze or cough, please do so in the most concealed way possible. If you are ill, but you definitely have concerns about your breathing or other respiratory issues, or anything along those lines, please contact your doctor. But let's try to limit this as much as possible. And I can tell you from our own family point of view, the flu is tough this year. Motion to adjourn?
So moved?
We are adjourned. Be safe, everyone.